Welcome everyone, Christine here with a discussion about Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires Shadows of Change patch 4.0 and to look at the changes that Creative Assembly have made to Cathay. The changes that they have made to Cathay involve the compass and harmony. Everything else is virtually the same, though there are some minor changes, landmarks, etc. But by and large, the vast majority of the changes do affect the harmony system and do affect the compass system. Now, this is the current live version of the game. I'm going to look at how harmony works and how the compass system works in the game as it is. And then I'm going to look at how it works in Shadows of Change to give you that comparison. So, currently, you have either yin, yang, or harmony, balanced harmony. If you go either too far on the yin or yang, you lose 10 control, you gain minus 20% construction costs for the other building. So if you're yang plus 7, you gain minus 20% construction for yin buildings. You lose 40% income from the types of buildings you have. So if you're too far down the yang path, you lose 40% income, but you gain 20% income from yin buildings and those 10 controls. Harmony is affected by lords, heroes, structures, and research in the current version. So the vast majority of research that you do have in the game right now, with the exception of the middle path over here, does affect your yin or yang balance. There's also events that come up, and yes, your legendary lords also have yin or yang as well. Now, perfect harmony, balanced harmony, gives you 20 diplomatic relations with Cathay, minus 20% construction cost for all buildings, 40 growth, and 25% income from both yin and yang buildings. This ends up being like a 20% income benefit overall, because you have to account for resource buildings as well, because those won't count in that calculation. You have to count for the main settlement building, so I would probably argue it ends up being like a 20% income benefit. 8 control, minus 5 corruption, and all armies have the Ancestral Warriors ability. Basically, the way you would play a campaign as Cathay is you would always want to get perfect harmony. For instance here, I got perfect harmony in this campaign that I just started in Realms of Chaos by literally just recruiting a lord to get that perfect harmony for Miao Ying. It's not challenging to get perfect harmony in the game as it currently is. It's just frustrating to maintain. And you always obviously want to maintain it. The diplomatic relations, the construction cost. For all the frustration that exists, it is very well worth it. I believe in the most genuine sense that Creative Assembly did not intend this to be the case. I think they might have intended perfect harmony to be something you would have to really work for, not something that you would abuse throughout the entire campaign. There are also mods that give you perfect harmony regardless of what you do. I think the problem, my perspective on the system as it exists at the moment, was that it was very easy to get balance, but also very easy to get out of balance. So I think some kind of middle ground with respect to that, like you should have gotten a buffer, but getting harmony. But my perspective was keeping the harmony system as it was would have been fine had they given us a buffer of like say 2 points one or another. So you can go 2 points in yin, 2 points in yang. That's how the system currently is for yin and yang. I also want to talk about income buildings over here. So the yin building gives you 250 income from 250 income, obviously that's tax, and 6% income from trade tariffs. The trade exchange gives you 300, that's the yang building, and that is it currently in the game. The Wuxing compass has 4 slots. The Great Bastion gives you up to 6 casualty, or 10% casualty replenishment, actually, if you go in that direction. Reduces threat, reduces recruitment cost, and gives you the Celestial Intervention in Cathay armies in region. The Celestial Lake increases your growth up to 15 per region in Cathay. Gives you, and when it's activated, like you have the bar, the passive effect, and then you have the active effect only when the compass is pointing there. It gives you 15% income from all buildings in Cathay, and chance of winds of magic increase in strength I'm not quite sure what in Cathay exactly means. Like, is it just the geographic region? Not entirely certain on that. Dragon Emperor's Wrath gives you up to 4 control and gives you the Dragon Emperor's Wrath ability, which applies extreme attrition to enemy armies beyond the Great Bastion. It's, by the way, pretty useless to use. You don't have a control issue as Cathay, and the attrition situation doesn't really benefit you that much, especially on higher difficulties. The Warp Sword Desert, Winds of Magic will steadily decrease in strength, which is not really a huge benefit, which is not really a benefit at all, but it reduces corruption, -4 per region in Cathay, and enemy leadership -6 per region for enemy armies in Cathay. That is how the current system does work in the game as it currently is. Let's take a look at what Creative Assembly has done with patch 4.0 for Grand Cathay for Shadows of Change. Okay, now looking at the exact same situation in patch 4.0, let us take a look at what has been changed for Cathay. First off, you no longer have a global harmony system, so it has been removed completely, and it also has been removed from research, from lords and heroes. Lords and heroes still do have yin or yang to them, and that can grant certain benefits dependent on research, for instance. So like campaign movement range for yang characters, casualty replenishment for yin units, that still does matter, but it no longer affects your harmony balance in a campaign. Only structures do so. So and it's provincial, and it's province by province. So a province can be balanced, it can be yin, it can be yang. Now, first off, let's talk about the economy of Grand Cathay. The economy has stayed the same for most part, though there has been a very minor buff to the yang building chain from 300 to 325. That's really it. That's effectively that's the change to Cathay's economic buildings. With regards to the harmony effects, balanced harmony now no longer gives you growth or control or the Ancestral Warriors army ability. Instead, in each individual province that is balanced, you get 20% campaign movement range, -15% upkeep, and 15% income from all buildings. This is to make up for the fact that global harmony is no longer a thing. It can end up being more powerful as an economic benefit in the long term if you do have armies in a province, but it also might not be more powerful. It might end up being the lesser choice. Then, if you go down the yin path to 6+, you get the construction time of -1 for buildings, third growth, -20% construction cost, and free control. Not as much growth, same construction cost, so you do have that construction time benefit and free control. It's pretty decent. 8 control is meaningless. You don't really need that much control as Cathay. But you do lose out on the economic benefit over there. For Yang, Yang has been changed completely. Yang is now a military benefit and a research benefit. So you get 10% research rate, -30% recruitment cost, +3 recruit rank, and +2 local recruit capacity at Yang +6. One of the problems Cathay has had as a faction, as a race, is that they've had very, very limited recruitment slots. So now, with patch 4.0, if you want to recruit a lot of units, you can make a province a Yang province, and you can get that recruit rank benefit and local recruitment capacity benefit as well. So it ends up being a trade-off, I would argue. You don't have the same kind of economic power, so you're losing about 5%, if not more, in terms of overall economic power. And that's assuming that you even have a province that's balanced. But overall, you'll actually end up losing more, because if you're building stuff, you'll obviously want to go yin, so you're not going to have this 15% income. So you could consider it a nerf overall to the Cathayan economy compared to what it was before, because it was very easy, as I stated, to get balanced harmony. It was very frustrating to keep it there, but it was certainly doable to do an entire campaign where you kept harmony balanced for the most part, with the exception of when you confederated another faction, and even then it was relatively easy to get it back in check. So you have to make the choice between construction cost or the economic benefit. The upkeep benefit kind of helps with this, but not quite completely. The recruitment benefit, though, is certainly a substantial one. Not just in terms of the cost, but capacity, recruit rank, it's all very solid. Cathay didn't really need a research rate benefit, but now they do have it. And you're also losing the diplomatic relations benefit that Balance Harmony did give you. On the upside, and this is a major upside, this is why I say it's a trade-off. On the upside, you no longer have to worry at all about going full on during the research tree and actually getting stuff that's extremely useful, like fletchling mentors, dragon scales, jade stance, all that. You should actually unlock all of these things. Like I would first get dragon scales, 8 turns, then get harmonic balance yang, then get jade stance, and then go down the middle tree. That's what I would personally do in a campaign. So you could consider it a buff in some ways and nerf in others. So I would say like the raw economic output has been reduced, but there are other ways that the game does make up for it. Then we look at the whooshing compass. Now the compass has 4 additional directions, but these are only available to Yan Bo. Not sure how it is for Confederation if you're playing Miao Ying or Xiao Ming, but I imagine you're not going to be able to get these extra compass directions. Maybe if he gets those landmarks, but I doubt it. So if you're not playing Yan Bo, you get the Great Bastion, Celestial Lake, Dragon Emperor's Wrath, and Warpstone Desert. The effects, however, have been changed. For the Great Bastion, you still get casualty replenishment and defensive supplies, but now the Ancestral Warrior's ability is only available if you have it active, and only in Cathay and own regions. So you can no longer use it on the offensive, you can use it on the defensive. That in itself is a nerf. For Celestial Lake, the growth has been removed from Celestial Lake, and instead it's now control, up to 2 control. That is pretty pathetic, I would argue. But the income benefit is still there, and you get chance of Winds of Magic increasing in strength. Dragon's Emperor's Wrath still applies extreme attrition, but now reduces corruption, and also gives you the Celestial Intervention ability. And the Warpstone Desert has been changed completely to increase the sale value of cargo, increasing maximum caravan cargo capacity, and +1 Lord Recruit rank. Basically, with the Great Compass, it's still the same situation. When you start a campaign, you're always going to want to go for the Great Bastion, or when it becomes available, you're always going to want to go for the Great Bastion. Weirdly enough, I think Yan Bo can actually set the compass from turn 1. Yeah, he can set it from turn 1, because I've been playing his campaign in Immortal Empires. So you have to wait 3 turns. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but still, just something to bear in mind there. So how do I feel about all of this, having gone over the changes? There are trade-offs. There's benefits in terms of recruitment costs, campaign movement range. So you lose economic potential, but you do gain military benefits. Overall, however, it is a nerf. In particular, the biggest thing that's been nerfed is growth, because you no longer have the balanced harmony growth effect, and you no longer have growth from the compass. Instead, you can only get growth if you go down yin. Now, generally, you'll probably want to go down yin, but keep in mind you're obviously trading away the campaign movement range, upkeep, and income from old buildings. Early on in the campaign, in your initial provinces, I'd say, like in general, in provinces you're conquering, you're probably going to want to have balanced harmony, like where your armies are. But in your home provinces, you're probably going to want to go yin while you're building up. And once you're finished building up, or you're at the comfortable level in terms of build up, you probably want to get harmony as well. But I would argue overall, knowing this game, knowing how it plays, knowing the dynamics of a campaign, I would certainly call it a nerf, because you will grow your settlements slower, your economic output will be lower. Now, overall, Cathay was a fairly decent race even before the changes, though. Keep that in mind. It didn't have many economic issues. It had issues with recruitment slots, casualty replenishment, and really the frustration of the compass and the frustration of harmony in particular. The frustration of the compass is still an annoying system, but the harmony system feels significantly better to actually use. Not in terms of raw potential, but in terms of actual usage in the game. You do have choices, you have to decide. I think it's a better system overall, even if it is weaker when put together. What they didn't change for Miao Ying and Xiao Ming is climate suitability, which remains an issue. Like, if you're playing Realms of Chaos, the situation is particularly bad for all of them, including Yanbo, in that you conquer Cathay. You do that pretty damn quickly. Like, if I'm playing in Realms of Chaos campaign, you can take over all of Cathay, with the exception of obviously confederating the other major factions within like 20 turns. And Azazel is not going to break for the Great Bastion, suffice it to say. And then it's like you're just incredibly limited. That is obviously better in Immortal Empires, but that dynamic still exists there as well. Yanbo is substantially better. My feelings on the matter overall is like, in isolation, I am okay with these changes. What I am not quite fine with is how they decide to overall implement it. Because Yanbo has more climate. He does have more economic potential, significantly higher economic potential, because he can make commercial districts that give trade resources. And he gets these extra compass directions. The Nangchang Basin that gives growth, construction cost, and construction time, for instance. The Winds of Magic benefit over here. The characters are immortal. And also the recruit rank from Broken Lands. But really, the Nangchang Basin in particular is the one that's going to hurt you the most if you're playing Miao Yang and Xiao Ming, and the fact you don't have it. So, while the changes, I would say, are fine in isolation, in practice, what they've done with 4.0 and what they've done with the DLC is they've made it so that you have no reason, from my perspective, if you're playing Cathay campaign, unless you really, really just want to play a very short campaign in Cathay itself and focus on that, you have literally no reason to ever play Miao Yang or Xiao Ming. And also, between the two of them, Xiao Ming still is the stronger legendary lord. That is the current situation with Grand Cathay and patch 4.0, Shadows of Change. It is the race that got the most significant number of changes compared to Kislev and Sinch. I'm not going to make a Kairos video because Kairos got no changes almost at all. Some minor stuff, but nothing really worth talking about in any way, shape, or form. Like a landmark, I think some research maybe, and I stress the maybe part, and a bit and some minor changes to changing of voice. That is all I had to say. Costin here signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.